Hello and welcome to This Month in Travel. I'm your host, Michelle Robson, and editor of Turning Left for Less. This month, I'm going to be taking a look at Black Friday. Not only what are the bargains, but how do you know what a good deal on a business class airfare is? I'll be updating this on Friday in case anything extra comes out, but it looks like the majority of the offers are out. If you look in the comments below, you can see that there is a link to the turningleftforless.com Black Friday page, and you'll find all the offers and many, many more all on this one page for you to have a look at and find all the great deals. So let's crack on with what there is to have a look at for Black Friday. So the first thing I'm going to cover is two areas. One is how do you know it's a good deal? And I'm talking particularly about flights with this one. And secondly, how do you maximize Black Friday in terms of earning your points and miles? So we're not in the same place, unfortunately, that we were in 2019 before COVID or even during COVID, where there were some great airfares around. Unfortunately, airfares have not really come down very much except on the London-New York route. So we have to suck it up, I'm afraid, at the moment. There was an interesting comment from Emirates this week saying that they thought that airfares would come down, which is good news. But I think we're probably still looking at another year or so before it gets anywhere close to where it was before. The good news with some of the sales is that the prices have calmed down for the UK versus Europe with some of them. But overall, generally, there's no amazing bargains except perhaps on the London and Europe to US East Coast, where there's an awful lot of competition now. And that's probably partly thanks to JetBlue, who have really helped bring the prices down. So in terms of what I would view as a target price, if I was buying on Black Friday, so if we take the US to start off with, if I was looking at the East Coast, I would be looking at a maximum of £1,500. For New York, I would say less than that. It's very common to get fares for around 1,250 or less, and that's even from the UK. So I would definitely not be looking to pay anything more than 1,500. The same with Boston. There are some good fares around on that at the moment. So anywhere between 1,250 and 1,500 would be a decent deal, and I would be happy to buy that. When we look more at other routes such as Miami and Florida and also the middle of the US, then there is less competition to these places. So those are, I would say, probably looking closer to 1,500 to 1,700, although Chicago has had some decent deals recently. On the West Coast, I would be looking at 1,500 or less, but actually in reality, those are quite rare now. Sometimes LA and San Francisco you can get for those prices. There are a few floating around in the 1,500 mark, but I would say probably 1,800 would be the maximum I would pay for that, but you could get lucky. If we move on to the Middle East, then there are some decent deals, but you'll have to fly from outside the UK. I'd be looking at similar prices to New York for that. So around about $1,250 would be my target price, particularly if you're flying from outside the UK. And I will run a bit of those deals later on when I talk about the individual companies. In Asia, then unfortunately prices are very high at the moment. I think part of the reason for that is British Airways has not restarted many of their Asian routes, so there's less competition. So really you're looking at a minimum of £2,000 with the odd exception to the Far East from Europe. I would say realistically, I would even probably go up as 2,200. That would be my top that I would pay, and I would regard that still as a reasonable deal. If we look at the Maldives, you used to be able to get this for around about 1,600 to 1,800. Now you're looking at least 2,000. 2,100 for me would be a good deal, but that's quite rare. And finally, if we look at Australia, then the prices here are probably some of the worst I've seen. It really has not come down much since COVID at all. The average price is around about £5,000 to £6,000. So I would say anything that's £4,000 or less is a good deal, but you will struggle to find that. I've only seen a couple of deals in sort of less than £4,000 recently, and there's very little in the Black Friday sales for that, unfortunately. In terms of maximising your points and miles when you're shopping at Black Friday, the first thing I'd be doing is looking at things like Top Cashback and the British Airways and Virgin stores, and also Virgin Red. Virgin Red is a Virgin Points scheme that's separate to the Virgin Atlantic frequent flyer scheme, but you can use the points in exactly the same way, and it all goes into your same Virgin Atlantic account. They have some bonus miles available on your shopping, or bonus points I should call them now, so that's worth looking at. British Airways is saying they've got up to 50% extra Avios on their e-store, and the way these work is you literally just shop as you would normally, but you've clicked through from the site and you can earn Avios. The other way to do this is the Top Cashback, which is an independent site where you can earn either cash or gift cards or Avios. So there's various different ways. However, the Avios scheme is due to end soon. So you would have to be quick to get your Avios out, and a lot of companies don't pay out that quickly. So you just need to be wary on that and look at how long they take to pay out. I believe it's the middle of December the scheme's ending. So you might be safer if you just want Avios actually going via the British Airways website. The other option is Quidco. They don't offer Avios, but they do offer cashback, and they also offer gift cards like Uber, for example. So that's another option. Obviously, you then need to look at what credit card you're using. Make sure you're using one that maximizes the miles. If you've got American Express, it's always worth looking at the offers, because quite often you'll find that there's a money off on lots of different stores, and that can be combined with cashback as well. It doesn't affect it. It's not like some of the discount codes. When you are doing cashback, not so much with the British Airways and Virgin ones, but Top Cashback and Quidco, if you're going to use a discount code, you need to make sure whether that's actually going to stop you from getting cashback. They will list on the website which ones are valid. If there's a choice and you're just wanting the Avios, then you'd probably be better going via British Airways, because generally that doesn't have such strict exceptions. British Airways do have some holidays on sale as well, but so far I've only seen ones that are in economy, because there don't seem to be any business class flights available. Hoping this might change tomorrow. There are some decent deals around, so if you're after an economy holiday, it's definitely worth having a look. Obviously, you still have the double tier point offer, which is available until the end of next year for holidays of 5 days or longer, and that can be either a flight and car or flight and hotel, so definitely worth considering. Finally, with British Airways, there's also extra money off holidays like they normally do, with a different amount off up to £300, depending on how much you're spending. Virgin Atlantic also have some interesting deals. They have money off holidays up to £150. But the more interesting deal for me is the 33% off redemptions. And that includes all classes, so from economy through premium to business class, or upper class as they call it. So I think this is a pretty decent deal. So if you're planning to do a redemption, definitely worth thinking about. The one thing to note is that this does not include a reduction on the cash element, and these tend to be very high. They can be as much as £800-900. So if you're doing something like New York, it's worth thinking, is it actually worth using your points to redeem for that, when actually you could buy it for not much more in cash and get some points back? So worth considering, but there is 33% off. You can use it with your vouchers from the credit cards, so it could be a good deal if you were planning to do it anyway. In terms of business class deals, there are actually some decent deals around. These mainly tend to be to and from the US. So the best ones have been mainly New York and Boston. So if we start with New York, there's quite a few different airlines to choose from. Scandinavian have just launched their sale, and that's coming in around $12.50. Return from London. Obviously, you do have to fly via Scandinavia, but they do have a decent business class seat. There is also some decent deals available with Aer Lingus, and also from Manchester, not just from Dublin. You can also fly from London. All the prices will be listed in the article. The other good deal to the East Coast is with TAP. Now, I would urge a little bit of caution. I've heard quite a few stories where the customer service side of it has not been great. The seats are good on board. They've got modern aircraft, well equipped, good seats, but when things go wrong, they're not always great. So you get what you pay for. That's my view. And TAP are very cheap. So their cheapest price at the moment is Boston for around £950. And that's a really, really good deal. That's the cheapest I've seen it for a long, long time. So it's a great deal, but just you take your chances if something goes wrong. And there is also good deals with TAP to Cancun and to New York, all around the $12.50 price, and the West Coast as well for a little bit more. So some decent deals there. There's a few to the West Coast with SAS as well. So it's definitely worth having a look. If you're thinking of going to the US, have a look at the sales because there's a few decent deals around. As I said, we haven't seen anything from British Airways yet, but it's still possible tomorrow. The Qatar sale was interesting this year. Now, last year it was absolutely shockingly bad. The prices from the UK were just completely ridiculous. This year they're a bit better. They're not great, but actually the prices from the UK aren't substantially more than Europe in most cases, which is really unusual. So if you've kind of ruled Qatar out for being too expensive, actually the prices are not too bad, but they're definitely not a bargain. You're looking at around 2,100, 2,400 to most of Asia. So not great, but could be worse. There were a few bargains from Oslo to mainly the Middle East. So Ras Al Khaimah, Abu Dhabi, Dubai and Muscat are all very reasonably priced from there. And also Bangkok, there were a few places where you could get it under £2,000, which unfortunately is about as good as you're going to get at the moment. The Maldives wasn't too bad from Rome. That was 2,140-ish. And that's normally the cheapest place to fly from for the Maldives for some unknown reason. As I said, all the details are in the articles. There's a specific Qatar ones that lists all the cheapest places to fly from if you're looking for an ex-Europe flight. So check that out to find the cheapest prices. Qatar have a couple of other offers that are not just flights. They're also offering a 50% bonus when you buy Avios. And secondly, there is also up to 10,000 extra Avios when you book a flight with them. So make sure if you're booking a flight that you actually get that offer. You can find it all on the Privilege Club page, and there's a link to that in my article, which is linked below in the Black Friday category page. There's also a 50% bonus when you buy Avios. Now, so far, British Airways has not launched anything on this, which I find surprising. I think they probably will do at some point over the next few days. It's been a little while since their last buy bonus. In the past, I would have said it's not necessarily worth buying miles. At the moment, it can be. The only thing to take into account is the huge amounts of taxes and charges, because the cash element is quite often, as I said earlier, £800-900. So if you're then paying for the Avios or on top of it, then actually it can work out pretty much the same as buying the flight. So make sure you do your homework before you actually buy anything. Just do what I call a dummy booking, where you search for the flight you're looking for and see how much the cash element would be, and then obviously have a look at how much a completely cash flight would be before you make your decision. If we look at other areas, then there are discounts on suitcases. For example, Tumi and Away both have 20% off. Most of the hotel brands are running offers. They're generally all around the same sort of discount. So Marriott, for example, is 20%, Accor is 15%. Hyatt have had an offer on recently. There's an interesting offer with Iberostar, because they're offering up to 40% off. Barcelo, who also do the Royal Hideaway resorts, which are very nice, they're offering up to 40% as well. So both of those are worth checking out to get some decent deals. And finally, I will mention the Accor gift cards. So this one is really useful because if there's nothing that you can book now because you want to travel after the sale dates, then actually you could buy gift cards and use those. Now, obviously the drawback is you need to be able to use them when you need to pay. So you can normally only use them actually in the hotels. So you need to make sure it's not a prepay rate. And it's 20% off, which is a good deal. And you can use them on lots of different brands. Now, Accor has some very interesting brands such as Raffles and Fairmont and also Banyan Tree. So definitely worth considering looking at the gift cards as a way of getting a discount on those brands if what you want isn't in the sale. And as I said, it is 15%. I should also mention at this point that all the deals I've been talking about, you need to join the hotel's loyalty club to get the full discount. Now, it doesn't cost anything, and normally it gives you something such as free Wi-Fi, or you can check in online. So if you're not already a member, I always think it's worth joining. It doesn't take any real effort, and you can always opt out of emails if you don't want to be bombarded. In terms of target prices for hotels, I'm not going to cover every city in the world, but I will specifically talk about London, because that's been an interesting market over the last couple of years since COVID. Prices are still extremely high now, and I would say that the average price now for a five-star hotel ranges from round about 350 to £1,500 for some of the newer ones, such as the Peninsula and Raffles. So if you see something towards the 350 end in a five-star and it's got good reviews, then that's definitely worth looking at. I would use the Pan Pacific as a really good example. I really love that hotel, and you can get some really good deals because it's in the east of London, in the city near Liverpool Street. It tends to be cheaper than if you go the other way towards Mayfair. So yeah, 350 would be a great deal. I have noticed a few decent deals around, like the Milestone, for example, would normally be around £500. That's been below 400 in the last week or so. So it's definitely worth looking. I would say if you're looking at four-star, I would be looking at 250 or below as a good price. And this may sound high, but unfortunately that's the way it is, particularly if you're looking in the next couple of months. If you're looking for January, you can normally get some good deals, and then I'd be looking more like under 200 for that. But at the moment, it's Christmas, it's peak season, so room prices are very high. And my final mention is for the Amazon Black Friday sale. I have combed through this and come up with quite a few interesting things that are great for travellers. So if you're interested, have a look at the Turning Left for Less website. There were some good deals on some luggage. There are also things like packing queues, which I find incredibly useful for keeping things organised, or if you just want to unpack for like 1 or 2 nights, you can just unpack those and not the whole suitcase. There are also things like headphones and travel gadgets. So definitely worth checking out if you need some travel accessories. So that's all for this month. We'll be back next month before Christmas on the 3rd Friday of December. And until then, happy travels.